I think it's safe to say that Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 taught me some great lessons in life. One of which would be the fact that foliage is damn fucking important in making things look great, and this is confirmed by this episode, in which I did realize that although I lost a bit of hope for this park in some places, mostly the places that didn't even have foliage yet, I kind of regained that hope when I placed the foliage, and it looks great. And it might actually be update worthy, and I think this park is actually nearing completion. It like kind of in the same way as foliage makes everything look better than you expected, it also makes everything look more finished than you expected, because it's not that much of a job, it doesn't take that much time, but it makes a huge difference in how work in progress a project looks. And this is also one reason why it is nice to sometimes do it in a different way than I am doing, because there are kind of two main ways to get around doing this when it comes to doing scenery and doing just general foliage. You can either just do like I do, or at least in sections, where you first place all of the scenery, then go ahead and do the foliage, which is quite efficient. And it's nice in making layouts and stuff like that, not forgetting which kinds of sets you use for foliage or the scenery. But then again, it's also not that great, as in it's very hard to judge what the progress is on what you're making. For example, sometimes when I built Verona Valley, for example, I was just working on it, and that's also at some point that I lost confidence in my project, and I was like, is this actually the right direction? And only when I placed foliage in the end did I realize how happy I actually was with the final result. But that was only until the very end of the park when I added the foliage. And before that, it's really hard to judge whether everything is actually going to turn out very nice. And that's why you might want to just build a bit of foliage and build a bit of scenery and just keep doing it hand in hand. And there are some pros and cons to the various things. Of course, when you do foliage and scenery work at the same time, like I said, you're kind of prone to losing sets. It's kind of easy to then, if you're doing foliage at a later stage, for example, you have to look back at what sets you've used in, the past yourself has used. And sometimes that's kind of hard. Like, I remember going back to this park already and feeling like, I don't exactly know which trees I used here, so first I had to study my own work before I could actually get on with my own work. And that's one con to doing the scenery in one go and then doing the foliage in one go. But sometimes, it's also very nice to just save that bit of time and just do everything at once, specialize in that stuff for a bit. And I think that it's actually quicker to just do the scenery in one go and then just do the foliage all over the park. But one more pro than I would give to giving the not very specialized way and just doing the scenery and a bit of foliage and then a bit of scenery is that it's arguably more fun sometimes. Depends on what you're used to work with though, but I find myself sometimes doing it just because it's more fun. It's more variety in the kinds of things that you're doing, and I like that sometimes, but I rarely ever do it. I did it on a Craigage Buster though, which you could have seen on the update threads on the coaster. I had some very work in progress pictures where one half of the coaster was nearly completely finished and the other half was just empty grassy fields. And it did work in the end though, and it was a very fun project to work on, but then again, it's not a very serious example now, is it? It's just a Joe coaster after all, and not really my best one, so it's not really something that you can take seriously like that. And I don't know if there are any other projects where I've kind of did that thing with the foliage and the scenery like that. Oh well, I should probably talk about what I'm doing right here. Well, I decided that I would add rock work to this area as well, because it obviously needs it. We need rock work everywhere, because this is an over-the-top park. If this was actually a real park, I would actually try to hold back on the rock work just a tiny little bit. You don't really have to worry about making it natural or non-natural, because as you might realize, most parks in real life use fake rocks. So you're not gonna get realistic rocks anyway. So or at least it's not important to get realistic rocks anyway. But if you're building entire mountains, of course, it's an entirely different story. And that is why this park is kind of clashing. And I just decided to do that under the motto of it's over the top. Just go with it, go with the flow, or don't. And that's basically it for this park. It's either over the top, or I'm not going to do it at all. And same goes for this rock work. But I wouldn't necessarily say that this is realistic. But the point that I'm trying to make is that your rock work either has to be realistic if you want some large rock work, a lot of mountains, or a lakeside, stuff like that. And it shouldn't be too over the top with many small rocks and many different textures. That is not very realistic. But if you're going for a man-made look, you can actually do that as long as it's on a somewhat small scale and it's doable. For example, look at, what's that coaster called again? Expedition Everest. That's a pretty big rock and it's all man-made. And you generally shouldn't worry too much about rock work and it being realistic or not. It can be either man-made, or if it really needs to be natural, then only then do you really have to, be careful with the rock work. But sometimes it's just fun to let yourself go and just take all kinds of scenery and see what you can do with that. And that's kind of what I did in this case. Although I must be very honest, I wasn't really too creative with the rock work over here. Yes, that is a penis right there. I was streaming and that was actually not a penis because I like immature shapes, but because I wanted to create a little camera, a little spot where I would have an open area in the forest from which I could take pictures or videos or just in general nice shots. So that's why the penis is over there. It's a functional penis, don't worry. What was I talking about though? Damn it, I think I completely lost the subject. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? Oh wait, I was talking about... Yeah, the problem that I felt with this park almost was, as over the top as the rock work might seem, it's not that creative. But then again, there is a problem, and you might want to write this down because there's just a very limited list of rock sets out there. There is Weber's Foliage set, which got mossy rocks, and a couple of other things, and they're very nice, but they only really work for mossy environments, forests and stuff like that. Sometimes people use them for riversides, I guess that works. Weber's Large Rocks, which is generally, like the name suggests, a set with large rocks, what do you expect? There's Weber's Medium Rocks, which unlike the name suggests, has completely different textures than large rocks, so do be wary of that. And there is Shy Guy's rock set, which is somewhat outdated, but it's still got some uses. There is Yosemite set by MGP, which got those amazing big rocks that you can really use for some mountainsides, and that is about it, I think. It's not really much else out there that you can really use. Some outdated sets and some sets in which you have to create your own rock faces, but that takes a lot of time and work. And generally, it's hard to come up with some really unique rock faces unless you actually make your own custom scenery. But then again, rock work is not really something you should worry too much about. As long as you cover it up with foliage, you're good to go. But anyway, that's it for this episode, so thanks for watching and see you on the next one.